This is Taylor Elwood at magicalexperiments.com. I was asked recently on a comment on one of my other YouTube videos to comment about atheism and magic, and the person asked if someone doesn't really believe, then is that something that would cause their magic to not work? That's an interesting thing. It depends, first of all, on how the atheist approaches magic. I know several atheist magicians, and I think that they would argue that their approach is very much based on technique and process, and that how they get around those particular issues involves approaching magic in some ways from a psychological model or from a scientific model of approach. So, for example, if an atheist was going to work with a goetic demon, instead of viewing the goetic demon as an objective entity that has its own existence, that person might argue that the goetic demon is really just a subjective metaphor or representation of his or her own psyche, and that the attributes that the goetic demon embodies fits that particular psychological part. That's the way the person can access that, and therefore it's really being able to access internal resources that the person might not otherwise be able to use, but is able to as a result of the psychological and symbolic representation of the entity. And you know what? More power to them if that's what works. You know, my take on it is obviously a bit different, but the way I look at it in regards to atheism and magic is that there's not really any distinctive, oxymoron to an atheist practicing magic. It just comes down to how the atheist understands his or her process. One might argue, though, that if an atheist has similar results as someone like myself who believes that an entity is objective, does that mean that the atheist is right and that I'm deluding myself? I can tell you for sure. Because each person is going to have their own perspective on it. What I might argue in turn is that, if anything, the atheist is connecting with that entity and that the entity is humoring the atheist. The atheist might disagree. So it's kind of an interesting little situation there. But, what I look at in the end, and I think what really should be looked at, is, does the magical process work? And if the atheist says, yes, my magical process works, then that's all that really matters. I don't really feel a need to say to an atheist, because you're atheist, your magic isn't going to work as well or whatever, because the fact of the matter is that if that person can get definite results, then obviously it is. His or her explanation may differ from mine, and that's fine. As long as they can get results, and as long as their understanding of their process is solid, then that's what really matters in the end. So that's my take on atheism and magic, in a nutshell. I'm not particularly inclined one way or another toward, judging someone for their personal beliefs, because having had that occur all too often in my own life, I think it's not really something that's all that important. I think, as I said, what matters most in the end is the person getting results. If they are, and they are able to explain their process, then I don't care if they're Christian or atheist or Muslim or Jewish or pagan or whatever else. What matters is that they got results for whatever process they were utilizing. And if they even call that magic, and they may not. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.